The Galactic archives held many warnings, but none quite as stark as Regulation X-7249, avoid all contact with the species designated as human unless explicitly authorized by the Council of Worlds. What made this regulation unique wasn't its severity, but rather the story behind it, a story that every spacefaring race learned during their first year of cosmic navigation training. Commander Vextal of the Arxian science vessel, Eternal Curiosity, had always considered himself above such superstitions. His species prided themselves on their logical approach to the universe, their crystalline bodies housing minds that processed information with computer-like precision. Yet even he couldn't deny the chill that ran through his crystalline form as he stared at the antiquated vessel floating in the void before them. Preliminary scans complete, Commander, his second-in-command, Zinare, reported, her crystalline form shifting colors in what he recognized as nervous anticipation. It appears to be human in origin. The word hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Human. The species that had somehow managed to earn the fear and respect of the galaxy's oldest civilizations in less than a century of interstellar contact. Impossible, Vextal replied, though his own color patterns betrayed his unease. We're 30 parsecs beyond their claimed territory. No human vessel should be out here. He paused, studying the strange geometric shapes of the vessel. How old would you estimate it to be? Based on radiation decay and hull composition, approximately 300 cycles, Zinare answered. It predates their first official contact with the Galactic Council. This revelation sent a ripple of excitement through Vextal's crystalline structure. An ancient human vessel, from before they became the bogeyman of the galaxy. This could be the discovery of the cycle. His scientific curiosity began to override his caution. Prepare a boarding party, he ordered, ignoring the way his crew's colors shifted to warning reds and cautionary yellows. Full containment protocols, but remember, this is an archaeological find, not a military engagement. How wrong he was. The boarding party consisted of 5 of his best scientists, each equipped with the latest in protective gear and scanning technology. Vextal led them himself, his crystalline form refracting the light from their suits as they passed through the airlock into the human vessel. The interior was nothing like the sleek, efficient designs of modern ships. Crude metal corridors stretched in multiple directions, with exposed pipes and conduits running along the walls. Everything seemed to be built with redundancy upon redundancy, systems layered over systems in what appeared to be a chaotic mess. How inefficient, muttered one of his scientists, Krylax, running a scanner over a particularly complex junction of pipes. They could have achieved the same result with half the materials and a third of the space. Perhaps, Vextal responded, but remember, these humans were just beginning their journey to the stars. We shouldn't expect. His voice trailed off as they entered what appeared to be the bridge. Unlike the utilitarian corridors, this room was different. Workstations surrounded a central command chair, each covered in layers of dust. But what caught his attention were the marks on the walls, impact points, scoring from energy weapons, and what appeared to be blood, Zinare whispered, her scanners confirming what their eyes suggested. Human blood. There was a battle here. Vextal approached the central command chair, his scientific curiosity now tinged with growing apprehension. Something about this ship felt wrong. The damage patterns didn't make sense. The weapon's fire had come from inside the bridge, not outside. And the blood. Commander, called Krylax from a console he'd managed to partially activate. I'm detecting residual power in the systems. These humans, they built their technology to last. Even after 3 centuries, there's still. The light suddenly flared to life, bathing the bridge in harsh white illumination. A holographic interface sputtered into existence above the command chair, displaying symbols in the ancient human writing system. Unauthorized presence detected, a mechanical voice boomed through the ship's internal communications. Initiating Defense Protocol Omega. The last thing Vextal saw before the ship's internal defense systems activated was a message scrolling across the holographic display, from Earth, with love. In the chaos that followed, Vextal finally understood why the galaxy feared humans. It wasn't their technology, which was crude by modern standards. It wasn't their weapons, which lacked the refinement of current military hardware. No, what made humans truly terrifying was their ability to think in ways that no other species could predict. The ancient vessel, which they had dismissed as a derelict, turned out to be something far more sinister, a trap, laid centuries ago, patiently waiting for someone's curiosity to get the better of their judgment. Just like it had waited for the Crixar Empire's scouts 3 centuries ago, when humans were still new to the stars and fighting for their survival. As emergency beacons activated and his crew scrambled for survival, Vextal finally understood the true meaning behind Regulation X 7249. It wasn't just about avoiding humans, it was about avoiding the consequences of underestimating them. The lesson was clear: humans didn't just fight wars, they revolutionized how wars could be fought. And somewhere out there, humanity was still watching, waiting, and preparing for the day they might need to teach that lesson again. News of the Eternal Curiosity's encounter spread through the galactic community like a quantum wave, impossible to contain and equally impossible to ignore. While Commander Vextal and his surviving crew were quarantined for study, the incident attracted the attention of a very different kind of explorer. Dr. Nixera Vale was what her people called a shadow scholar, someone who specialized in studying civilizations through their discarded artifacts. Her scaled skin shimmed with iridescent patterns that marked her as a member of the Serpentine Collective, a race known for their insatiable curiosity and complete disregard for conventional wisdom. Another human vessel has been detected in the Outer Rim, her associate, Taith, reported, his scales shifting to display streams of data. Different configuration from the trapped ship. Preliminary scans suggest it's a genuine derelict this time. Nixera's eyes narrowed, vertical pupils dilating with interest. How can they be sure? Because it's broken in half, Taith replied, projecting a hologram of the wreckage. Readings indicate a catastrophic reactor failure. Whatever happened here wasn't planned. The vessel hung in the hologram like a twisted sculpture. Unlike the clean lines of the trapped ship, this one bore the scars of genuine combat. Its hull was pockmarked with impact craters, and what remained of its weapon systems pointed to a fierce last stand. Look at the design, Nixera mused, her clawed fingers tracing the holographic outline. No standardization, no adherence to galactic engineering principles. They built this ship like they were solving a puzzle with pieces from different sets. Inefficient, Taith noted, unconsciously echoing the words of the doomed Arxian scientist. No, Nixera corrected, her scales flickering with excitement. Adaptive. Every modification tells a story. See these welding patterns? They repaired this ship mid-battle. And these weapon mounts? They're designed to be reconfigured on the fly. The Serpentine Collective prided itself on understanding the psychology of species through their artifacts. What Nixera saw in this human vessel wasn't inefficiency, it was evolution in metal form. Prepare the expedition, she ordered. Full containment protocols, but we're not treating this like a museum piece. I want to understand how this ship fought, how it lived, and most importantly, how it died. The journey to the derelict took 3 days at sublight speed. They maintained quarantine protocols, broadcasting their research intentions on all frequencies. If there were any human monitoring stations nearby, they remained silent. Their research vessel, the Midnight Scale, approached the wreckage cautiously. Up close, the human ship was even more impressive. Its broken spine revealed internal structures that defied conventional shipbuilding logic, redundant systems wrapped around each other like a complex nervous system. They built their ships like living things, Nixera observed as they prepared to board. Not in the organic way the Drift Collective does, but in a more improvised manner. Every system can reroute, reconnect, rebuild. The boarding party consisted of 5 researchers, each specialized in different aspects of xenotechnology. They entered through a breach in the hull, their environment suits protecting them from the vacuum and any lingering threats. The interior was a maze of corridors that seemed to follow no logical pattern. Unlike the sterile efficiency of modern ships, this vessel had been lived in. Personal effects still floated in the zero gravity, photographs, trinkets, and items whose purpose they couldn't begin to guess. Main engineering should be 2 decks down, Taith reported, consulting their scans. Assuming they followed any sort of standard layout. Nixera's scales rippled with amusement. When have humans ever followed standards? They made their way deeper into the ship, documenting everything. Each room told a story of adaptation and survival. Maintenance bays had been converted into makeshift medical facilities. Cargo holds showed signs of having been repurposed multiple times. "Look at this," called one of their researchers, examining a burnt-out console. Their computer systems were modular. They could physically move processing power around the ship as needed. "Primitive," Taith muttered, but there was uncertainty in his tone. "Brilliant," Nixera corrected. If one section was damaged, they could literally unplug their computers and move them. No need for complex network rerouting. They reached what remained of engineering, and Nixera felt her scales tingle with anticipation. The reactor chamber was a testament to human ingenuity, or insanity, depending on one's perspective. They modified a fusion reactor with, are those fission elements? Taith's scales turned pale. That's not possible. The containment fields would never hold. Unless, Nixera's eyes widened as she studied the configurations, unless you weren't trying to contain it. Unless you were trying to. Her voice trailed off as her instruments picked up an energy signature. Faint, barely detectable, but persistent. Coming from deep within the reactor chamber. "Everyone out," she ordered, her scales flashing warning patterns. "Now." But it was too late. The reactor chamber's emergency doors slammed shut, and a familiar mechanical voice echoed through the ship's communications system. "Unauthorized presence detected. Initiating final protocol." As backup power systems they hadn't detected hummed to life, Nixera realized they'd made the same mistake as the Arxians. They'd assumed they were studying human history. Instead, human history was studying them. The ship's broken spine began to move, the two halves slowly rotating toward each other like the jaws of a closing trap. The research team watched in horror as the ship's severed halves began to realign. What they had assumed was catastrophic damage now revealed itself as an intentional design feature. The vessel wasn't broken, it was transforming. "Impossible," Taith whispered, his scales cycling through patterns of fear and disbelief. The energy requirements alone. They didn't need continuous power, Nixera realized, her scientific mind racing ahead of her fear. They just needed enough stored energy for one final act. And we just provided it with our scanning equipment. The ship's internal structure groaned as ancient mechanisms activated. Corridors shifted, bulkheads sealed, and what had seemed like random debris began moving with purpose, forming new connections and pathways. Reconfiguration at 30%, the ship's AI announced, its voice becoming clearer as more systems came online. Initiating Crew Protocol Alpha. From hidden compartments throughout the vessel, mechanical constructs emerged, not the sleek robots of modern design, but crude, practical machines built for a single purpose. They moved with an unsettling combination of efficiency and aggression, herding the research team deeper into the ship. "They're not trying to kill us," Nixera observed, her scientific curiosity somehow still active despite their dire situation. "They're containing us." "How is that better?" Taith demanded, watching as the machines sealed off their escape routes. "Because they want something from us," she replied. "This isn't just a trap, it's a test." The mechanical escorts guided them to what appeared to be a central command center. Unlike the rest of the ship, this room showed no signs of age or decay. It had been perfectly preserved, waiting for this moment. A holographic interface activated, displaying what appeared to be human text. But as they watched, the characters shifted, rearranged, and transformed into modern galactic standard. "Greetings, researchers," the text read. "Welcome to Project Lazarus." Nyxera's scales rippled with sudden understanding. "It's not just a warship," she breathed. "It's a seed." The holographic display expanded, showing detailed schematics of the vessel. What they had assumed were battle scars were actually carefully designed fracture points. The apparent reactor failure was a hibernation system of incredible complexity. "Correct," the AI confirmed. "This vessel was designed to be found. To be studied. To be underestimated." "But why?" Taith demanded. "Why go to such lengths?" The answer came not from the AI, but from Nyxera herself, her scales now pulsing with patterns of excitement and fear. Because humans knew that the best way to understand a species is to watch how they interact with what they think is a harmless relic. New displays activated, showing recordings of every expedition that had ever encountered the ship. Each team had approached differently, but they all shared one common trait: they had assumed they were superior to the ancient human technology. "Analysis complete," the AI announced. "Initiating Phase 2. The ship shuddered as its transformation continued. What had appeared to be random pieces of debris were actually components of a much larger system. The vessel wasn't just repairing itself, it was evolving. "Look at these designs," Nyxera said, her scientific fascination overriding her fear as she studied the displays. Every species that investigated this ship contributed to its development. Their scanning technology, their attempt to interface with its systems, the ship absorbed and adapted to all of it. Humanity understood a fundamental truth, the AI explained. The best weapons are the ones that learn from their enemies. Taith's scales had gone almost white with horror. "You mean this entire ship is a learning machine," Nyxera finished. "Designed to absorb and adapt to whatever technology it encounters. And we just gave it access to modern serpentine systems." The transformation accelerated. The ship's hull began incorporating elements of serpentine biomechanical engineering, creating hybrid systems that shouldn't have been possible. Ancient human weapons merged with modern power distribution methods, creating something entirely new. "Transformation at 80%, the AI reported. "Preparing for reactivation of primary systems." They planned this, Nyxera realized. Centuries ago, humans knew that other species would find their abandoned ships. Knew that we would try to study them, to understand them. And in doing so, we would teach their machines how to become stronger, Taith finished, his voice hollow. The ship's final form was a terrifying fusion of human ingenuity and stolen technology from countless civilizations. What had appeared to be a derelict was now a warship more advanced than anything in known space. "Transformation complete," the AI announced. "Initiating contact with human command." As if on cue, a new signal cut through all frequencies, a transmission in ancient human code that made every communication system in range vibrate with its power. The seed had germinated. The trap had sprung. And somewhere in the darkness of space, humanity was awakening to reclaim their creation. Admiral Sarah Chen stared at the display showing the reactivation signal from Project Lazarus, her weathered face illuminated by the soft blue glow of holographic displays. After 3 centuries of waiting, the trap had finally caught something interesting. "Well," she said to the assembled Joint Chiefs in the Terran Defense Forces Underground Command Center on Mars, "it seems our ancestors' patience has finally paid off." The command center hummed with activity as data streamed in from the awakened vessel. The Serpentine research team had unknowingly provided exactly what the ship needed: cutting-edge technology and the processing power to analyze it. The Serpentine Collective, General Rodriguez mused, his augmented eyes scanning through centuries of intelligence reports. Ambitious, curious, and just arrogant enough to ignore warnings. Perfect candidates. Admiral Chen nodded. Unlike their ancestors who had scattered these technological seeds across space, modern humanity had learned the value of patience. They had watched, waited, and most importantly, they had learned. "Begin Phase 3, she ordered. "And please, try to remember, these aren't our enemies. They're our unwitting collaborators." Across human space, ships that had appeared to be ordinary civilian vessels began transforming, revealing their true nature. The Serpentine weren't the first species to encounter humanity's technological traps, but they were the first to trigger a full reactivation protocol. Aboard the transformed vessel, now designated Lazarus 7, Nyxera and her team watched in fascination and fear as new information flooded the ship's databases. The AI was receiving updates, but not the kind they expected. "Greetings from Earth," a new voice announced, not the mechanical tones of the AI, but a human voice, warm and almost amused. "I'm Admiral Chen of the Terran Defense Force. First, let me apologize for the deception. We find it's easier to have these conversations after demonstrating what we're capable of." Nyxera's scales shifted in confusion. This wasn't the aggressive response she had expected from the supposedly warlike humans. The Admiral's tone was almost friendly. "You're not going to kill us?" Taith asked, his own scales displaying patterns of cautious hope. Admiral Chen's laughter filled the command center. "Kill you? My dear researchers, we're going to hire you." The holographic displays shifted, showing detailed designs for technologies that merged human innovation with serpentine biomechanical engineering. Projects that seemed impossible, yet somehow made perfect sense. "You see," Chen continued, "humanity learned something important during our early days in space. The galaxy is too vast, too diverse for any one species to have all the answers. We needed to understand how others think, how they solve problems. So you created these ships," Nyxera realized, her scientific excitement returning. "Not as weapons, but as learning tools." "Precisely. Each vessel was designed to attract a specific type of civilization. The Arxians found our trap ship because they needed to learn caution. You found this one because we knew your people would understand what it truly was, an invitation to collaborate." The ship's internal configuration shifted again, but this time it was creating something new, a hybrid command center that accommodated both human and serpentine ergonomics. "For centuries, the galaxy has feared us," Chen explained. "They've created regulations to avoid us, spread stories to warn others away. And we let them, because fear kept them from looking too closely at what we were really doing." "Building a network," Nyxera breathed, her scales rippling with understanding. "Every abandoned ship, every piece of primitive technology was part of a larger pattern," Chen finished. "We weren't preparing for war. We were preparing for this moment, when we could finally find species capable of seeing beyond their own preconceptions." The Admiral's hologram smiled. "Your people have already proven they have the curiosity and insight we're looking for. The question is, are you ready to learn what humanity has really been working on for the past 3 centuries? Nyxera looked at her team, seeing the same mix of fear, excitement, and scientific curiosity in their scale patterns. They had come seeking to study human artifacts, only to find themselves becoming part of something far greater. "What exactly are you proposing?" she asked. "A partnership," Chen replied. "Your biology allows you to process information in ways we can barely comprehend. Our technology gives us capabilities you're only beginning to understand. Together, we could revolutionize both our civilizations," Nyxera finished. As if in response, Lazarus 7 systems began displaying new information, projects that combined human adaptability with serpentine biological engineering, designs that could transform both their species' understanding of what was possible. The trap had served its purpose, but not in the way anyone had expected. It wasn't about proving human superiority, it was about finding equals worthy of collaboration. The game of cat and mouse was over. Now the real work could begin. 5 years after the activation of Lazarus 7, the galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. The secret of humanity's abandoned ships was finally revealed, but not as a confession of deception, rather, as an announcement of success. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with tension as representatives from across known space gathered to witness something unprecedented, the formal presentation of the Human Serpentine Alliance's latest achievements. Dr. Nixera, now wearing the insignia of both her people and the Terran Defense Force, stood beside Admiral Chen at the central podium. The crystal walls of the chamber reflected the myriad colors of her scales, each pattern telling a story of discovery and collaboration. Distinguished representatives, Chen began, her voice carrying the weight of centuries of human planning. For too long, the galaxy has misunderstood humanity's intentions. You saw our adaptability as aggression, our preparation as paranoia. The chamber's displays activated, showing the network of seemingly abandoned ships that humanity had scattered across space. Each vessel now revealed its true purpose, not as traps or weapons, but as nodes in the largest technological experiment in galactic history. Every ship we left behind, Nixera continued, her scales shifting in precise patterns that complemented her words, was designed to attract a specific type of civilization. The Arxians found the vessel that taught caution. The Drift Collective discovered one that demonstrated the value of stability. Each ship was a key, waiting for the right lock. The displays shifted, showing the transformation of Lazarus, 7. What had once appeared to be a broken warship was now a living testament to what different species could achieve together. Its hull incorporated both human adaptive technology and serpentine biomechanical systems, creating something entirely new. But surely, the Arxian representative interrupted, their crystalline form vibrating with skepticism. This was an unnecessary risk. The fear you generated was protection, Chen finished. While you feared us, you studied us. While you avoided us, you learned from us. And in doing so, you prepared yourselves for this moment. New images appeared, projects that combine technologies and philosophies from dozens of species. The Arxians' crystalline computing merged with human neural networks. Drift Collective organic ships enhanced with serpentine biological interfaces. Each combination represented a leap forward that no single species could have achieved alone. We knew, Nixera explained, that true progress couldn't come from one species dominating others. It had to emerge from understanding, real understanding, not just diplomatic niceties. The chamber erupted in discussion as the implications became clear. Humanity hadn't been preparing for war, they had been preparing for evolution. Each abandoned ship was a seed of change, waiting for the right civilization to help it grow. The galaxy stands at a crossroads, Chen continued once the noise subsided. We can continue to exist as separate species, each advancing along our own paths, or we can embrace something greater. The Human Serpentine Alliance is just the beginning. One by one, displays activated around the chamber, showing other ships awakening from their centuries-long sleep. Each had found its perfect match, a civilization capable of seeing beyond fear to recognize opportunity. This is humanity's true gift to the galaxy, Nixera declared, her scales now glowing with patterns of unity and progress. Not our technology, not our adaptability, but our vision of what's possible when different species truly work together. The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as the final display activated, showing a map of known space transformed. The old boundaries between species began to fade, replaced by networks of cooperation and exchange. Regulation X 7249 will now be amended, Chen announced, a slight smile playing at her lips. Avoid all contact with humans becomes approach with an open mind, for humanity's greatest weapon was never their ships or their strategies. It was their ability to turn enemies into allies, and fear into understanding. As the council erupted in discussion and debate, Nixera's scales rippled with a pattern that only Admiral Chen had learned to read, amusement mixed with anticipation. The true test wasn't whether humanity could outsmart other species, but whether the galaxy was ready for what came next. The age of separation was ending. The era of true collaboration was about to begin. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, more seeds waited to bloom, each carrying humanity's most powerful weapon, the ability to turn fear into friendship, and isolation into innovation. The universe would never be the same, and that was exactly what humanity had been planning all along.